Iris. Okay. Good morning. I am Alfie Alvarado, Director of your Washington Department of Veterans Affairs, and welcome to your AMVETS Host 1. And thank you, Chuck Warden and his team, for hosting us today. Today we have, and it's a wonderful thing for us to be able to do that, a large contingent of WVBA staff members, senior staff members and support staff who are here with us today. And normally you don't get to meet them, but these are the people who really make things happen for your Washington Department of Veterans Affairs. I would like to take just a quick moment for all of you who are with WDVA to stand up for a moment, okay? And we're going to start like right here for them to introduce themselves and tell you what they do, okay? Starting with Lisa.
Hi, Lisa Narciso, and I work at the director's office, and I do the VAC and the women's committee. So I know majority of you here.
Okay.
Thank you and welcome.
Rafael?
I'm Rafael Lozano. I am the Outreach and Community Partnerships Coordinator for the agency. And I'm really happy to be here, and I'm ready to talk to any one of you who would like to talk to me.
I'm Jennifer White. I'm a suicide prevention peer specialist.
I'm Linda Fairbank. I'm the Clinical Compliance Director, very involved with all the policies and care at all the veterans funds and throughout the agency.
Heidi?
I'm Heidi Audet. I'm the Communications and Legislative Director.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Mary Ford. I'm the Assistant Director for, and I run the Veteran Services Council Wellness Division. So welcome, and I have lots of programs that you're about today.
Okay. And you can sit as you introduce yourselves. Okay.
And I'm Jeff Powell. I'm the probably newest member of the team here, almost Digital Navigator Program Manager.
And I'm Terry Westhoff. I'm the Chief Financial Officer.
Crystal Henson, I'm the Chief Information Officer for your WGBA.
Good morning, I'm Morgan Montez. I am Director of Strategy and Performance Management.
Good morning, I'm David Fuente. I'm the Deputy at your WDBA, and I'm also, as Alfie said, the Chief of Stuff. So I do what she asked me to do.
Good morning, I'm Steve Gill. I'm the Veteran Services Administrator at WDBA. I manage many of our services statewide, including all of the Veteran Service Officer work we do in partnerships with our nonprofit Veteran Services Commission.
I'm Chow Queen. I'm a veteran benefit specialist, and I work here in Pierce County, solely for the county.
Rick Killing, and I work with Mary in Veteran Services.
Tucker Flood, I'm the Claims Quality Assurance Program Manager.
And good morning. I'm Brittany McVicker. I also work in suicide prevention along with Jen and Mary.
And I'm Jennifer McDaniel. I'm the Public Records Program.
All right. Thank you for being here today. So we have a pretty packed agenda today, and we're going to be moving very quickly in here. I just want to welcome also our viewers on Facebook Live. Thank you for joining us. Those of you who are going to be viewing this later on, welcome also. Before I turn this over to Paul Herrera, who is our Black Chair, I just want to be able to make an announcement that many of you have already heard, but just in case, as of the 31st of January, I am going to be going on permanent vacation. And
Are you going to take us along with you?
yeah, and it's my retirement, and I will tell you that you know, I thought that when that time came that I was going to get really sad and, you know, cry and all that, and I'm going to try not to do that, and I'm not going to make any speeches today. But I just want to tell you that I do it with a song in my heart, because I am leaving an agency in the hands of the people you just met that have made everything possible in being able to make this agency one of the best in the country. So I just want to thank you all, our DVA staff, and thank you if I don't get to see you before the end of the time that I have in here. But it's been a long ride, and I am ready. And leave in your hands a service organization that is going to continue growing and serving veterans and their families. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Paul Herrera, our Governor Veterans Advisory Committee Chair.
Thank you, Al. You know, every time I step in front of people to welcome at a function such as this, I can't help to feel like and wonder the gratitude that I even have an audience. So that's great. So I welcome all of you with, you know, warmth in my heart, and I hope you enjoy these proceedings. And you being here, all our stakeholders of the veteran community, is really important to be here. So my name is Paul Herrera. I'm the Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee Chair. Our gathering of warriors today takes a special meaning, and we move to the next level due to all your presence here. So we welcome you to what I hope is going to be something of interest to all of you, the stakeholders in the veterans community. So that. We have a lot of stuff today. I look forward to getting this thing going. Our Vice Chair, Tom Davis, right here. He helped put all this together. Without him, I would be lost a little bit, but I really appreciate your help. And anybody who's on the VAC committee, please stand up if you can. Raise your hand. Okay. All right. So first on our agenda, we're going to have Deputy Director David Puente to come up here. He's going to give us a quick briefing of what's going on with the agency. So, ladies and gentlemen, David Puente.
I promise not to get too close to that sign. It keeps falling. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2022 Commanders Call meeting that we're doing this morning. I just want to thank everybody here that's here in person, and then for all of you that are on Facebook live stream. Again, my name is David Puente. I'm the Deputy Director here at your Washington Department of Veterans Affairs. It's always an honor to come here and have an opportunity to chat with you and share what's going on with the organization and all the great work that our staff and you all are doing as well. So the next few minutes, I'm just going to talk about a few highlights because we do have a packed agenda. The first place that I wanted to start is to share a little bit about what's going on in our 4-state veteran homes. So I know in the last time that I've been talking at some of these events, we've been having some challenges regarding admissions and staffing. So I do want to say that we are starting to open up admissions. We are currently admitting our veterans that are in need of the care that we provide in the 4 homes, although we're still struggling with staffing. We're still having the challenges with recruiting our CNAs that are the primary caregivers, with our nurses and LPNs as well. The good news, though, it's starting to move forward. I do want to share currently we're at about 74% census in our homes, so we still have a lot of rooms that are vacant. And then the thing that we're dealing with the challenges is that we have 165 vacant positions in our 4 homes. And again, it's trying to find those healthcare workers. So always, if you know somebody, please. There's a lot of us here in the room. We'd be more than happy to pass out a card or have them connect with us so that we can start talking about employment. The other thing that I want to talk about dealing with the homes is that some things that we're progressing with is we've built some partnerships with some colleges located throughout the state. So wherever our homes are located, so Port Orchard, Ording, Spokane, and Walla Walla, our staff have been working with the local community colleges and organizations that provide training for the CNAs or LPNs and RNs. We've developed partnerships in 3 of our locations. I'm happy to say that we've had students that have gone through a couple of those courses already. So for example, we've had in Spokane 4 graduate that are now employees of our organization in Spokane, and they're helping. We've also had recently, as a matter of fact, yesterday, we had another 4 CNAs that graduated out of the Olympic College, and Alfie had the opportunity to go and welcome them to the organization at their graduation ceremony. And then the last one that I wanted to share a little bit about what's going on over in Walla Walla is working with the Walla Walla Community College. We have a new cohort that's getting ready to start, I believe, at the beginning of January. There's going to be 9 students that are going to be going through that CNA training, and we'll have 9 new employees that are able to come back and work at our veteran home there, which is awesome news. It's just the beginning. We're still starting to do that, and we're hoping in a couple months we're going to have another program that's going to be able to continue to help Ording as well. So the next topic I wanted to talk about is, it's pretty interesting because, as we all know, Wellness, Arts, and Military Project. We've been working with the Washington State Arts Commission. It's a grant that they're giving us that we're going to be able to help our veterans. We're going to focus in our 4 state homes and also in the transitional housing program. And this is an area where it's going to be able to open up music therapy. We have a wood shop also at the Ording campus. We also have the possibility of opening back up the kiln. But there's a lot of things when it comes to arts in the community. We know that that's an area that's very beneficial. It helps wellness, it helps resiliency, it helps our veterans get back and mobile, and et cetera. So we're really excited with that partnership that we're having with the Washington State Art Commission, and we look forward to that helping our veterans, family members, and caregivers as well, because it's an exciting opportunity as we do that. The next thing I want to share is Alfie and I and a couple of us had an opportunity to visit our state veteran cemetery in Medical Lake. That was a very humbling event where we memorialized 136 unclaimed veterans and family members in November. There was a collaboration with the Missing in Action Project and Dignity Memorial Group to qualify and recover the cremated remains of our war heroes. It was an opportunity for us to work with Gold Star family members. And then the other thing that kind of stood out for me is that last year we were able to have the Gold Star Memorial Highway implemented, and to help with this final journey for our nation's heroes. It's very meaningful. I think for me, again, as I say, it was a very humbling event to go through that, to be able to do that, and to honor our heroes. The other thing that I want to mention that's going to be happening at the Medical Lake Cemetery is on December 17th. Rudy, our director over there, is going to be having a Veterans Holiday Remembrance Wreath Laying for family members of those interred at the cemetery may lay wreaths to honor their loved ones the week of December 12th through the 16th. And the actual public ceremony is going to take place on December 17th. So if you happen to be in the area, please stop by on December 17th. The other one that I wanted to share recently, and I know Paul Herrera had an opportunity to participate in the dedication, but at our Soldiers Home Cemetery, we were proud to have partnered with VFW Post 2224 to dedicate a Medal of Honor memorial to honor and commemorate the 4 Medal of Honor recipients that are interred at our Washington State Soldiers Home Cemetery. The memorial was funded with private donations and in-kind donations from local businesses, as well as contributions from the state legislature and Pierce County Council. And then one of the last things that I want to share about is our suicide prevention program. It's something new that our state and our agency is highly invested in. Last week, in looking at the sample design that we have here, we had an opportunity to unveil the license plate emblem that any vehicle owner can put on their car. The emblem is a small sticker. It goes on the bottom of the license plate, and as you can see up here is a demonstration of it. It says 988 Lifeline, there is hope. So I encourage all of you, to have an opportunity to do that, because the emblem is $18. $10 of that comes back to a grant program that we have, where we're going to be able to provide community organizations some funding as they continue the suicide prevention, peer support, and other assistance at risk to assist transitioning veterans, military members, and their families. So this all goes into the military member suicide prevention account so that we can provide those grants. And before you leave, I know we've got flyers out back where you walked in the door, so please grab some of those. It's educational materials, and it's also information on how to go about getting that state emblem on your vehicle. The last thing that I wanted to do is just briefly share something more of a personal nature. I know Alfie described and she mentioned her next journey. I think for me as an organization, I do want to take an opportunity from all of us here in the room. She's an amazing leader. Obviously, we all know she was a command sergeant major in the U.S. Army. She retired, but she's almost done, 29 years and 10 months. But who's counting, right? When those of us that serve in the military. I just want to thank you personally. I think you're an amazing leader. You've done a great job. You make us want to work harder and to continue this great, amazing work that we're doing. So if you don't mind, I'd like for all of you to please stand up and congratulate her on her next journey. So Paul, are you going to introduce her?
Thank you. Thanks, David. So before I introduce our next guest, I wanted to remind everybody today the purpose of us being here. Today, you're getting briefings from the WDVA of what they're doing and some of the programs in this itinerary. But the main purpose of this here, it's the commander's call. We're calling you to give us information of what's happening, boots on the ground, so we can take that message to the governor, so he can set the tone and get things done for our veterans. What was good for our veterans 10 years ago may not be good for veterans now. You're the people we're listening to. This is the commander's call, and we are here to listen. So as you listen to some of the things here on our itinerary, I see people taking notes. Make your mind think of what you're going to say. We're going to allow something at the end here for everybody to speak up, what issues you may have, and we'll talk it as a group, and then we'll write some things down, and maybe we'll have some more dialogue, and then we'll get some things done, okay? So I just wanted to remind that. So we're doing a little change on the itinerary, just because I think that person had to go, but I'd like to introduce Ms. Gamboa. She's going to talk to us about Working Families Tax Credit, and she's from the Outreach and Community Partnership. So ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Gamboa.
Hello everyone, and thank you for having me today. Not only you were so kind to give me a little bit of time to talk about the program, our new Working Families Tax Credit Program for Washington State that the Department of Revenue is leading, but also I was able to talk to you a little bit earlier in the program, and I really appreciate it. I was just sharing that I'm covering 2 other events today, and one of them is in Seattle. So I'll have to drive to Seattle, so please wish me luck. So my name is Perla Gamboa, and I'm the Outreach and Community Partnerships Manager for this new tax credit, a new program, Working Families Tax Credit. And I don't know if you've heard about it, but we are promoting the program. It's a tax refund, right? That everybody that qualifies, it's working families, but also individuals that file their taxes, our federal taxes, are going to be able to apply and receive beginning next year. There are some requirements, and thank you for providing the flyers here. I wanted to make sure that I mention this and bring this to your attention, because there are so many people that we know in our communities, our family members, church, our neighbors that may benefit from this program. So it's a brand new program that is already implemented in other states, but this is the first time that we're doing this in Washington State. And so the tax refund, it's a reimbursement, because in Washington State we don't file state taxes. The refund is going to come from the taxes that we pay whenever we buy something, right? Our sales taxes. And so we anticipate that 400,000 individuals in the state of Washington can benefit from this program. That's a huge number, right? We're going to start accepting applications on February 1st, and we're thinking that we're not going to capture all that number during our first year, but we're trying to make sure that we continue to spread the word. This program, I always get asked this question because during the pandemic there were some money coming to our communities, right, as a relief, but it was a one-time thing. So they always ask me, hey, is this just a one-time thing? It's going to happen only in 2023? And the answer is no. This is a refund that people that qualify can apply for every year. As we do our taxes every year with our federal taxes, we can also from now on apply for the state refund. Something that I also always share is that as this program started in other states, it opened for a limited number of community members. However, in Washington, we are opening it also for community members that are maybe immigrants and that are pay their taxes and that are in the path to get their citizenship and to serve in the Army, right? So it's also open to community members that file their taxes, pay their federal taxes using their ITIN numbers, which is an alternative for those that pay taxes, contribute, work in the state, and do not qualify to have a Social Security number. So this is a huge thing because in other states like California, they only opened it for a certain group of individuals, and after years, realizing everybody can benefit from this, they open it to this second group, which is people that file taxes with their ITINs. So we're very happy that this is happening from the very beginning in our state of Washington, and we should be proud of that. And so here in the flyer you can see the amounts that people will qualify for. It depends on our income level and also the number of children that families have. Again, this is subject to our legislation, and I just heard, don't quote me on this because it's not official, but amounts may be increasing in subsequent years, but this is what we have here for 2023. So again, money back to our communities. Please help me spread the word. This is super important. It's going to make the difference from families that may need to decide, do we buy food or do we go to the doctor, right? Do we pay for our treatment? So many people that may be that may need this amount of money. And so I think that's what I wanted to share with you today. The best way to get information is to go to our website. The website is workingfamiliescredit.wa.gov, and you have all the information. I have a wonderful communications team, and they are helping put together a toolkit, for example, that you may be able to find some things like graphics and things that you can share on your social media, some sample messages. So anything that we can do to make sure this money gets to the people, to the families and individuals that can use it, let's do that. I don't have to tell you that sometimes when we get some budget right in legislation, if we don't use the programs that we have, sometimes they will say, hey, people are not applying, right? Why are we giving you this money? And so we want to make sure that we have a lot of people applying and taking advantage of this money. Sometimes when we file our federal taxes, and if we are one of those families that are low or to mid-income, we get our refund and it's already distributed because we needed to pay for something that we already spent, right? So one thing that the program wants to do is to stimulate economy and to see how, to the extent that is possible, some of these families can use this money not necessarily to pay something that they already spent, but to build on their savings and other things that they can do. So It's a great program, and I'm very proud that we're doing this in the state of Washington. So if there are any other questions, please go to the website, and Rafael also knows where to find me. Thank you for the opportunity to share this with you. It's so great to see a lot of familiar faces, and Morgan and I worked together at DOR before she was stolen for your agency. And David and I worked together at LNI before I joined the Department of Revenue. So really appreciate it, because this is really, this embodies the way that we should work among state agencies, supporting each other. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, that was great. Okay, next up is something pretty important. So, you know, most of you here are leaders in some type of veterans service organization. And I would say it is a duty for you to know what the programs are out there. In 2023, we have 555,000 veterans that live in Washington State. You know, being part of veteran service organizations, we have each other within those organizations to lean on when hard times come up. One recent one was the pullout of Afghanistan. That brought back a bunch of emotions for not for only people who served in Afghanistan and lost friends or sacrificed time, energy there, and were asking themselves questions why. But it was the Vietnam veterans who said, I understand. See, within our veteran service organizations, we can talk about those things and lean on each other. But I was thinking about that veteran who was watching this unfold by himself in front of his TV, who lives up in Kettle Falls, who is not part of a veteran service organization. And when those emotions come about and things happen and they think of, they need to know what this number means. We as veteran service organizations need to know what the programs are available, so when we get that call, we know exactly and know where to direct that person for help. So I hope everybody opens their heart and their ears for this next presentation, the Suicide Prevention Program update. Please, ladies and gentlemen, listen very closely to this one. Mary Forbes, she's the Assistant Director for Veteran Services, and I look forward to listening to what you have to say. Thank you.
Well, welcome everybody. It's really awesome to see so many of you, and just, oh my gosh, just seeing smiles out there and talking to everybody. It's been really wonderful this morning. I am the Assistant Director, and I am responsible for the Veteran Services and Counseling and Wellness Division. And I kind of just wanted to take a minute just to kind of reflect back before we jump into what we're talking about here is just reflect on how we got here. We have been really working hard with our legislature and Alfie, just going around and talking to so many people to get to where we are today. Our strategic focus has been around outreach and access, especially to rural areas, to have quality health services, and especially to reduce suicide, and then to have responsive veterans programs. Our guiding principles is always with our programs, and you'll hear about that soon, that our veterans and our family members are the central part. We have programs that are one-on-one, experiential, and really serve our veterans, as you say, Paul, where they live, work, and go to school. We try to be measurable, and we try to have data-driven decisions. But most importantly, we're always positioning ourselves to bring funding, either from federal funding or local grants, or finding ways through our state legislature to build on our programs and initiatives. And that's what we've been able to do over the last couple years with suicide prevention. It is not by accident. It's been many, many, many engagements with many partners that we were able to get our suicide prevention bill passed and signed, House Bill 1181. It's very extensive. There's like 16 parts. WTVA is responsible for about half of those actions. And we just put a report out to talk about all the work we've done with our Suicide Governor's Challenge.
that really goes into many, many parts of our statewide plan that we've put together over the last couple years. But going back to this bill, there's many parts to it, and I just want to take a few minutes just to talk about this because this is very impactful. We've just begun this work. It creates a community-based service grant so that we can start having an account that we could let communities put in for, like a request for proposals to build suicide prevention plans and programs at their county level. Some of the ways the dollars are generated obviously is through donations, through this initiative that Dave talked to, but also when you go, we've worked with Department of Licensing so when you go and get your background check for a pistol or a weapon, if you go and do renewals or purchase a pistol, you will have you will get application to donate for gun safety, for suicide prevention. So these things are super important. That take a time if you can to read our Governor's Challenge report. We just submitted it. I happened to Google it last night and boom, it popped up. So it's amazing how fast things work. So much detail. It also created a veteran, it will be, and we're working on this, a Veterans Military Resource Database and web-based application, education materials, work with the Safer Home Task Force, the emblem as we talked about. And so these are super important work that we are doing. Part of this is also our suicide prevention peer specialist team that was also funded by our governor and through our legislature. So that's what Brittany's going to talk about here in a minute, how we're putting this work. We have the policy side of it, and we have these initiatives that help generate revenue, but we also have programming that is going to further be able to touch our community and help build on the knowledge. So with that, I will bring up Brittany, who is our supervisor of this awesome team.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone, for having me here today. My name is Brittany McVicker. I get to be the lead suicide prevention peer specialist for an amazing team of 4. You'll see them on the screen behind me. And I wanted to talk about this component because suicide prevention, as Mary was saying, has so many aspects to it. And so I get to work with the peer specialists. And so what we do is threefold. First of all, we are peers. First and foremost, your suicide prevention team are peers that have a shared understanding of the military and veteran culture. So we've got Marines, there's Army National Guard, Navy, military spouses. And so although we all have unique experiences, we share the understanding and an appreciation for military and veteran culture. With that, we can offer an empathetic ear. We can be that peer support to someone who might feel disconnected or just hesitant to talk about their experiences. So secondly, we connect. We not only connect with peers, but we connect, we strive to be visible in our communities so that we can close the gap between organizations and all of these amazing programs with our service members and our veterans and their families. Just like 911, just like we know what to do in an emergency, call 911, we also want our communities to know to dial 988 so that we can support, so that our communities can support these 500,000 veterans here in our state. And last but not least is training, this education and prevention education. Our team is certified to provide veteran-specific suicide prevention training. This course can be offered to any organization or group that is interested in ending veteran suicide. In addition to that LEARN training, it's called LEARN, it's an acronym, and it was developed with the Department of Veterans Affairs with the University of Washington Forefront program. So also with that, we are going to offer a veteran culture training. And this is to go out into communities and share military and veteran experience, and why someone who is a military or veteran might have different needs than someone who is not. So, as you can see, these guys are spread across the state. They're amazing humans, and for the whole 2 months that I've been here, it's been really wonderful to get to know them. What I need from you guys is, as you're hearing this suicide prevention and that there's trainings and that there's somebody out there that can talk, who do we need to go to? What organizations are you thinking of right now? So Jen is over there, Raphael's over there. Come find us, because that's where we need you. Is where can we go so that we can continue to be visible for our veterans and our military families? Thank you.
All right, next up, we're going to have a briefing about the Sergeant Fox Grant and Digital Navigator Program. Jeff Powell, you going to do that one? Okay, all right.
And then Jeff's going to come up.
Okay, absolutely. Someone's phone's up here, I don't know. I'm up there.
So as you heard, we have the suicide prevention program. Just to put in perspective, like 3 years ago, we had 0 funds, 0 FTEs. Now we have 8 full-time staff supporting this suicide prevention statewide program. And all of that is funded by your general fund state, by your governor, by your legislators who have supported this. We also positioned ourselves to go after a Staff Sergeant Fox grant, which is it was a suicide prevention initiative, but really a universal health policy to work upstream to help prevent and help reach our veterans before they have anxiety, suicidal ideations. So we worked on this grant and we really positioned ourselves in our state, and there's a couple of them with 9 Lives is here. They've also won this grant. But this grant is allowing us to work and find and work with 8 rural counties in our state to really try to build out the suicide prevention peer specialist model, to really engage with county members and try to refer our veterans to the healthcare system as well as gaining their benefits. So that's really important. I don't know if we could, do we have a next slide maybe to show that? These are federal funds. We kicked this off 1 October, and we are still just growing this program. And I just wanted to show this map of our state so you can see the 8 rural counties. So we're really focused in western Washington, up in San Juan, and Skagit, Whatcom, and Island. And then in the middle of the state, where we have Kittitas, Grant, Douglas, and Chelan. So that we, again, like I talked about before, are focused on access and outreach, but really trying to focus and touch our rural counties who just don't get as much assistance as we do here in Pierce and King and Thurston, and so we're having to restart that. So no worries, that's what happens. So again, your WDVA working with many stakeholders. This is not just one person doing this. This is like a huge team. We're really excited to kick that off. The other initiative that we have, and I'm going to bring Jeff up here in a minute, hopefully we get those slides going, is we also positioned ourselves, thanks to Alfie and David, to go after a Commerce grant to, again, serve our veterans, our most at-risk veterans. So, Jeff, do you want to come up and start talking about this initiative?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Powell, and I have the privilege of getting to build an airplane in flight. So the Digital Navigator program is an amazing opportunity that will allow us to gift a computer to veterans who can't afford them. So the target audience is for single family that make less than $73,000 a year. So that's 200% above the poverty line. So anybody who makes below $73,000 a year, single amount in the home, is available to this program. So by gifting these computers to veterans, we open a door that allows them to get to every benefit that is there. So the hard part about this program will be reaching the veterans who actually need them, because our typical way of communicating and advertising is through a lot of digital means right now. So all of you in this room are instrumental in helping us complete that outreach, because you know people who need this program. And so you can help them contact us through this. So the, sorry, I didn't realize which slide I was up on. The, one of the key aspects of the program is that we will have a 1-800 number so that we can do a, I'm going to lose my words, a standard intake, not a digital intake, an analog intake versus, you know, doing it on your phone. So they can call in. There will be a hotline. We will, by the definition of the grant, we have to cover 7 languages, so we'll be able to reach a large cross-section of veterans as we go through that. Another aspect of the program is digital literacy. We are going to actually spend 4 to 8 hours at the issuance of the equipment, and we will bring people up to speed on how to actually use that computer to gain full access to all of their benefits. Another great aspect of the program is we're going to help people with the Affordable Connectivity Program. That is a program that is nationwide. A lot of people don't know, but there are over 100 different internet providers out there that will provide internet at a much reduced rate for the underserved communities, not just veterans, but all underserved communities. So it's an excellent opportunity to provide internet, which really has become a basic right, a basic need for everybody in this century. It's no longer, you know, a luxury; it's a requirement. So, and then finally, talking about the digital learning and those skills, we'll be able to get them to the VA sites, not just the federal VA sites, but our programs here in the state. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Can we go back one? So, just so everybody understands, when we stand up this program, we are going to be located in three locations. We'll have a digital navigator up in King County, working out of the King County office. We're going to work with the King County Veterans Administration team so that we can hit a larger crowd. We have a lot of homeless and underserved veterans that are in that area. The real focal point, though, for us will be the rural, so down in Orting and out towards Spokane. We're going to work out of Eastern Washington University. That gives us an opportunity to work with the underserved communities in the rural areas. I think that we've already made reference to, you know, somebody who's alone out there and not connected, needing help. And so this will help to bridge that gap. We will hire 3 digital navigators. There will be 1 professional at each one of those locations. They're not just anchored to that location. They're mobile. They can go places. So if there's a veteran that can't come to the home in Orting, that team will go out with a Vet Corps volunteer, and they will issue that computer. They'll spend that 4 to 6 hours with them. They'll bring them up to speed, and then they'll have access. So it's not just you have to come to us. We are going to build this up so that we can go see people. Next slide, please. So this is the business model that we're hoping to follow, and this is a work in progress. We have a great team at the DVA. The CIO's team has worked very hard over this last week and a half to connect us with T-Mobile and Google, and had multiple conversations this week with them. They're going to develop an amazing platform for us that will be really the key to success in terms of connecting veterans once they have that device in their hand. It's pretty amazing. Unfortunately, I didn't get that slide worked into this brief, but it literally, when you take a phone out, the screen has all of the basic federal apps on the front of it. We're working on getting our state apps built into that platform so that people can see it and they know exactly where they can go to. But the intake model is we will use, the VetCorps, Veteran Service Housing, the 800 hotline, all the other VSOs in the state will have access to the intake form. The intake form will be hung. We're still working on how we're going to hang that and how it'll be accessed, but it'll be on the WDVA site. And you'll be able to pull it down. They'll be able to fill that out, call the number. At that point, the digital navigator will take that information and do an assessment. We'll figure out what their skill level is, do a financial review to make sure they qualify financially for the program, and then we determine what type of package they're going to get. Some people will get a phone and a computer and a puck, depending on where they live. Some will just get a computer. Some may only need a phone. It all depends, and that assessment will be made by the digital navigator. So the variance and what we're going to spend on each individual is not the same. Some people will spend probably $249. Some people we may spend up to $650. It all depends. So there's a lot of math that is going to have to be worked out there. But the implementation is the equipment issue. That's done by the digital navigator. It's either done at a one-on-one site or out at Ording. We've been given an amazing space by the team out there at the Veteran Home. We'll be able to probably train about 20 people at a time. And we'll be able to conduct a class that really brings people up to speed, not only in their digital literacy of being able to use a computer, but also to be able to access the most important thing, their benefits, the things that they've earned. So I think that pretty much covers it. Like I said, the most important aspect for you, and Brittany, this was fantastic how you worked this in. What I really need from all of you is to help us find the people who are not connected, who do not have a computer. Okay, there's people who can't afford them. They have older technology. They may just not want to have a computer. That exists. I know that. I'm not naive. So and so we have to figure out how we're going to work around with those people to get them connected. And that's what I ask for your help. If anybody has any questions, I can field them. Sir?
What are you giving new refurbished? What is it, laptop, desktop, computer?
That's a great question, sir. So they're actually going to get a new piece of equipment. They're going to get a brand new phone, and they are going to get a brand new, probably Samsung Chromebook.
Well, that's the one kind of thing, but if it hooks up to the internet, what?
That's another great question. So the puck, you may not be familiar, it's a Wi-Fi puck, which connects to the internet. We will issue that if they do not have Wi-Fi in their home. The other thing is that the computer can have a SIM card put into it, which makes it LTE or 5G capable, so they can log straight in just like if they were opening their phone. And if they have a phone, well, we all know how our phone works. So does that answer your question, sir?
I mean, the one time, but if you're going to maintain the internet connection for that veteran for how long?
That's another great question. So we're looking at that window. We have a couple of different options. We can do 6 months, we can do a year, or we can do 2 years. And at that point, sir, then we transition them over to the affordable connectivity program. Sir?
The only question I have is, will you provide training? Because I'll tell you, we've experienced with the older vets that either they're adverse to high technology.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but they are trainable. And usually they're trained by their grandkids. So, but I guess more importantly is the training aspect. It's great to have new equipment. The other part of that, as far as to make it successful, is the training.
So that's actually on the front end. So when we hand them that computer or phone, they have to go through, we're going to determine how much training they have to have. It's 4 to 8 hours. So let's say I get the savvy veteran who comes in, he knows exactly how to use the equipment, but we're going to make sure he's checked off and he or she can get to their veterans benefits. So they have a login, they know where those sites are, they know that. And then there's my grandpa, who comes in and I've got to load everything up for him. And I got to show him how to get to it. And I've got to make sure that, hey, maybe he's got a sheet that he walks out with that's not written in tiny letters, but in actual letters that he can read. You know, I understand. So yes, sir, we're going to cover that. Sir, in the back.
How you doing? So I actually am a VetCor navigator, and part of the issue I kind of see is, well, I understand that you're providing the training and the equipment. Transportation is a big thing that I'm facing out there in the field. How do you plan to coordinate transportation between their sites and to the training facility?
That's a fantastic question.
Jeff,
It's actually your team.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. The question was, he is a VetCor coordinator, and one of the issues is transporting veterans or getting to the veteran. So if the digital navigator, let's say out in Eastern Washington University, has to go to Cooley City, that is covered in their budget. They can drive out there. They'll pick up the VetCor volunteer and they can drive out there. Now, there is a constraint because we can't transport a veteran. So let's say the veteran in Cooley City wants to come to Eastern Washington University. Well, then we have to contact the VA, the actual VA, who has transport people who can go pick up a veteran and bring them to an appointment. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Roger that. Done my homework. Next, sir. Next.
It's a little difficult getting up, okay?
No.
For security for the computers.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so how long will you guys provide that? And updates?
Okay, so that's another great question. So
Repeat the question.
The question is how long will we provide security and updates? So Norton Antivirus, if I am correct, and I haven't done all the homework on this, but I get free Norton because I'm a veteran, and it does that automatic update. It constantly is doing that. So there are programs for veterans to sign up into so that they can have that secure. Oh yeah, come on now. Just Google that. Free for veterans.
Didn't know that.
Yep.
Did not know that.
I just wanted to incorporate that.
Can you speak up so that they can hear you?
Through the effort that we're doing with the vendors to provide the equipment, security and tech support is part of the process that we're looking to include for an extended period of time while they have the device. So while we may provide it to them gifted, kind of fire and forget in the sense after we provide training, they'll still be able to get support through T-Mobile beyond the initial support we provide when we gift them the device. And that would include the security and helping them have those extra resources. Does that make sense?
Somewhat.
Okay. Sir.
Is your program in the WDBA budget that they submit every year for a 2-year budget request?
No, that's another great question. So we actually borrow this money, or it's other people's money that comes from Commerce. And so this grant is typically a year-long grant. We're operating on an 8-month time frame, and it's for $2.5 million. And around the March time frame, we will start to apply for the next year's worth. That way we can continue to evolve the program. That's a great question.
So it's in the Department of Commerce that you get your money.
That's correct. So an example.
Given.
What's that, sir?
That's not a given, though.
No, but there is a success story out there. Goodwill is actually gone through 2 iterations of the grant, and they're working on their 3rd. So as long as we show a demonstrated need and we show success, and we have multiple reports to do that, we probably will be able to renew the grant. Sir, all the way to the back.
For the income, you said it's $73,000. What is included in the income? There are a lot of things like your VA disability money, your VA money is not included in your income when we do these.
It's your taxable.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, thanks, ma'am. So the question is what is the what is counted in that 73,000? My interpretation of it, and I have to get this through AG, is it is your taxable income. So whatever goes on your W-4 or your 1040, I'm sorry, I don't do the taxes at my house anymore. Haven't for 25 years. The 1040, whatever the income is on there is the marker. I know that for sure.
Jeff? So I'm gonna ask the last question because I know we have to
Okay,
move on. But we had a question online. How do I refer someone to your program?
At this point, we will not start taking referrals until after the first of the year.
Okay.
And at that point, there will be a link on the WDVA site, and then we will publish a 800. So that's where our communications person is going to come in. Great question. Thanks, Heidi. Was that it? I think that's all I can take for questions because we have other people who need to brief. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for the great questions.
All right, next we have the Women Veterans Advisory Committee overview. I'd like to introduce Shelley Willis, the chair of the WEVAC. Come on up and give us your briefing.
Come on,
And after that, we'll take a break.
Oh, like what a setup! That is such a setup. So like I'm between them and a moment, right? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? Good morning, afternoon. Okay, so I've been before you before. My name is Shelley Willis, U.S. Army veteran, served 25 years in the United States Army, and retired from Joint Base Lewis McChord here, and kind of took a journey that I hate microphones and I hate these things. They're barriers. But I know I have to stay in camera or Heidi will get me. Retired Joint Base Lewis McChord. My husband and I retired 6 months apart. That was crazy. But Washington State has become our middle. I don't like Orlando, Florida. He doesn't like Dallas, Texas. So here we are. But I am here today representing all parts of what you could possibly think that you never would see yourself being. But as the honored and humbled opportunity to be the new chair for the Women Veterans Advisory Committee, this is definitely going to be a unique journey because I feel like we're at a moment where we're rebuilding and restarting, and I have to fill the great shoes of Command Sergeant Major Carol Stripling, who was my predecessor, but also is a mentor and more than she realizes. And so the great work that she's done to carry us through to and through the pandemic, to keep us together as a core committee and honor all things women veterans for the state of Washington. I want to give you a hand, ma'am, and thank you for everything that you have done. Many of us would be remiss, but if you are a member of the Women Veterans Advisory Committee, would you please stand? All of us, who's in here? It's the three of us that are able to make it. So we are a statewide committee. We represent Washington State. So in our love language, we want to make sure that we pass that on to those of you who are watching live. We represent you, Washington State. We are statewide. Our ultimate goal is to ensure that we have equitable access and we are able to inform and educate not only our women veterans, but our communities abroad, the region, the state, and make sure that there is a quality of life and equitable access to education, employment, medical care, and those are the like for our women veterans. Our biggest strategy and what we're in the process of doing right now is we're in a reset moment just like everyone else. We're creating space. One of the biggest things that we're working on is, one, identifying who we are, where we need to be. Our skills gap as a new committee, as we just brought on 2 new committee members. It's not about wanting to get everybody and everything on there. It's about really being very strategic. We have to be very smart with how you attack a new mission and how you enter and take your new approach. And so we want to be smart about how we're doing that. We have all the data and all the things that involve women veterans for the state of Washington, and we could go on and on about that. But if we don't take a smart approach to how we want to execute and set goals that are smart, that we know we can achieve and actually improve the quality of life of our women veterans in Washington State, then we are doing you a disservice. So we want to represent you well, but we also know that we're not doing this alone. It takes all of you in this room And it also takes our women veterans to show up and show ourselves up and use our voices. If you identify something that is a need in your area, in your region, within the state of Washington, please let us know. You can find us on the WDVA website. You can email us and contact us. But we're going to be traveling because one of the things that I think is a big deal is that with our Veteran Affairs Advisory Committee, we're in partnership. So thank you, Paul, thank you, Tom, for hearing the voices of us, of our women veterans, to partner with the VAC as they do their statewide town halls. So the new thing that we are doing in 2023 is we're going to be hosting the town halls. Travel the state. There's a requirement for us to travel the state regionally and hear the voices of our military community and the needs. What we're doing is the WeVAC is we're partnering with the VAC, and we will be hosting a 1-hour gathering town hall of sorts right now prior to the town hall starting. So if you hear us coming to your region, and our first stop will be in Vancouver, February 1st. We will be in Vancouver, Washington, February 1st. There will be more coming about that. But from 9 to 10 a.m., we want our sisters from Oregon to come, and we want every woman veteran within that regional area that can come to join us. We will have our own space so that we can have some discussion and conversation around what are the larger needs, what are we missing, what are the gaps. And so this will be the new thing that we're doing this year. I don't like duplicating anything, and if you know me very well, I hate redundancy. I just like to lean things out, and I really like to have clear communication and strategy. So that is going to be one of our first ways to reintroduce ourselves and conduct good outreach and engagement and really survey and find out what the needs are. Not what we think, but what you're saying your needs actually are in your area. We want to make sure that we are force multipliers. We don't want to leverage resources. That's like going in your kitchen and getting your scraps and bringing them to the table. Force multipliers create abundance, they build capacity, and they open up opportunity. So this committee going forward, we're finding ways to be force multipliers and adding value to what we are doing. We don't want to bring any scraps to the table, and we have a lot of good energy and a lot of good minds sitting at this table who have ideas, who want to execute them, and we want to find unique ways in which to do that. And in order to do so, we're going to be advocating at every opportunity. We're going to be partnering and making sure that we're doing outreach along with the WDVA, because who needs another table at a resource event when you already have one with Raquel? And we're going to show up even when we are the only one in the room that looks like us. We are not scared of you. I will wear whatever hat I need to wear, sit at whatever table I need to sit at, and I'm always going to ask you where you are, women. We ask a lot of others, but as women, we have a responsibility to show up. We can't keep asking and not showing up. So this isn't about just what we want, but it's also about what we have a responsibility to start doing, and that's showing up. So if I'm going, and I'm the only, and I don't care about that, I want you to be brave and courageous, and I want to challenge you and make this a call to action going into 2023. We need all of our women veterans to stand up and show up. And it may be scary. It may be difficult. It may make you feel uncomfortable, but change doesn't happen in comfort zones. So get ready, because we're coming. In my Dion's conversation, we are coming, and we're ready to do things in a new way, be force multipliers, advocate, and speak loudly. So I look forward to seeing you all in 2023. You're going to see and hear me. I'm easy to find, easy to access for some people, but you know where I am. And our WeVAC committee members, you will see them being reintroduced to the state in a great way, and we look forward to partnering with all of you. Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to take a break. Are you motivated?
Yes.
All right, that's good. So let's get motivated and take a break. Come back at 20 after. So everybody on Facebook will be back at 11:20. All right? Ready? Break.
I retired. You want me to tell her that let me ask. When I talk to people, that's why I don't
30 seconds.
Do you want to get together and talk a little bit about this?
All right, we're gonna get this thing going now. Thanks for coming back. People on Facebook, thank you for coming back. This next subject on our itinerary is the PACT Act. You've been hearing about it. It was because of veteran service organizations and the memberships behind them yelling and screaming in Washington, D.C. that made this happen. And now it's a reality. So with the PACT Act is going to come a lot of responsibilities. You're going to have more veterans refiling claims, new claims. So we need to be ready for this. So we're going to hear a briefing from Director John Lombardo and Assistant Director Steve Strope on the PACT Act.
Fritz.
What? Did I say the wrong name?
And Fritz.
Prince. Oh, I didn't even see that. Okay, sorry about that. All right.
There we go. Right?
Coming on up. Sorry about that. Come to the sound of my voice.
All right, I'm not John Lombardo. John Lombardo is back there. Thank you for the invitation to talk today. And as mentioned, here to talk about the PACT Act. And I couldn't think of a better time for us to have this conversation because we're in the middle of what's called, or in the beginning point of what's called PACT Act Awareness Week. And we're doing not only briefings like this, but we're going to have some big town hall meetings. So on December 15th, the Acting Undersecretary for Benefits is actually going to be coming to Seattle, and we will be briefing at the Medical Center on PACT Act. So couldn't be a more important time to get the word out. So you've heard about the PACT Act, and if you can go to the next slide, please. And it is essentially one of the largest, if not the largest, expansion of health care and benefits for veterans. And it is massive in the sense that it touches generations of veterans. And you know, I've been working in the VA for close to 30 years, and we've had many big legislation initiatives that we have implemented, from more recently the appeals modernization in 2017, Blue Water Navy, of course we had Agent Orange, but this one, when I say it's impacting generations of veterans, you're talking about Vietnam, Cold War, Gulf War, post 9/11. So that's the broad sweeping impact of the PACT Act. And the PACT Act was signed into law on August 10th, 2022. The very next day, VA had an all-time record in visits to va.gov. And what we've already seen since the law was signed is 177,000 claims have already been filed for the PACT Act. Now we're expecting millions of claims to be filed for the PACT Act. So the question, understandably, should be, what's our state of readiness to be able to take on this massive workload? And I was here in the middle of the one of the larger claims. There were times where we took in claims, and that was when we implemented Agent Orange and the 3 new presumptive conditions back in the 2011 and 2013 timeframe. And at that time, our backlog skyrocketed to over 600,000 claims. So it's understandable to ask the question, is VBA ready? Is VA ready to absorb these millions of claims that we expect to come in with the PACT Act? And I'm here to talk to you today about what we're doing to ensure we are in a maximum state of readiness to be able to deliver on this promise to serve generations of veterans who will be filing claims for the PACT Act. And as this slide shows, again, I kind of went over its generations of veterans, Vietnam, Gulf War era, post 9/11. The next slide talks about the different toxic exposures that the PACT Act covers. And you can see those toxic exposures: air pollutants, chemicals, radiation, warfare agents, and occupational hazards. And part of the broad sweeping nature of the PACT Act is there are numerous cancers and numerous respiratory illnesses that are included in the PACT Act. So I'll just briefly go over what those conditions are. So for the different cancers, brain cancer, glioblastoma, respiratory cancer of any type, gastrointestinal cancer of any type, head cancer of any type, lymphoma, lymphatic cancer, neck cancer, pancreatic cancer, reproductive cancer, kidney cancer, melanoma. The respiratory conditions are asthma, chronic rhinitis, sinusitis, constrictive bronchiolitis or biliary bronchiolitis, emphysema, granulomatous disease, interstitial lung disease, pleuritis, pulmonary fibrosis, sarcoidosis, chronic bronchitis, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. So that should signify just how all-encompassing the PACT Act is in the different cancers and illnesses that are covered by this legislation that is based on these toxic exposures. Okay. So the next slide, next two slides really are there to cover the Agent Orange benefits that are available under the PACT Act. So the expansion of different benefits based on where a veteran served, and also the new two additional presumptive Agent Orange conditions, monoclonal gammopathy of undetermined significance, or MGUS, and hypertension. So one of the important aspects of communicating this out is to make sure that our veterans know where to go when they're filing claims. So one of the best sources of information is to go to va.gov/PACT and get all the latest information on PACT Act there. But you can also call the VA at our 1-800-827-1000 number, or you can file a claim online, or you can visit get help from an accredited VSO. So we're encouraging veterans to file claims now. Why are we encouraging veterans to file claims now? The law was passed, signed into law August 10th, 2022. We want veterans to file before, as soon as possible, but before August 10th, 2023, so they receive their back pay. So that's really critical. So we don't, part of this is an aggressive outreach effort to make sure that that veterans are aware of benefits when they file claims as soon as possible. All right, so the next slide covers the radiation efforts that are also part of the PACT Act, and which are covered there. And then the next slide is on, I talked about the fact that we're looking at Gulf War and also post 9/11. And within Gulf War and post 9/11, there are different geographical areas which are spelled out on this slide. So that's the important distinction. With August 1990 for the Gulf War, and of course 9/11/01 for the post 9/11 veterans. And the final slide covers an important area that I want, you can back up one slide please, is we're also very cognizant of the fact that there's people out there who might be preying upon veterans and scams and things like that that are important to call out and make sure that we look into those matters. So as part of these communications and briefings, I want to make sure that our veteran community is aware of the fact that they're where to go if you see any fraud, if you see anyone who's trying to prey upon veterans. And there's a number I want to make sure you're aware of, 1-800-488-8244, which is a number to the VA OIG, or you can go to VA OIG hotline at va.gov for anything where there is concern about fraud. So with any large expansion of benefits, unfortunately, you're going to get some people who are, you're going to get people who are there to commit fraud, and we want to make sure we call out those instances as soon as possible. So I want to talk to you really about what VA and what VBA has done to prepare for successful PACT Act implementation. So I talked about the fact we want veterans to file claims as soon as possible. VA, since the law was passed on August 10th, 2022 to January 1st, which is a few weeks from now, when we start processing these claims, getting our systems in place so that we're able to absorb the workload that we know is coming to us with the PACT Act. Part of it is reducing the backlog that we already have on hand. So VA has been able to reduce the existing claims backlog from a high of 264,000 by over 45%. So the current VA backlog is just over 150,000. So from the standpoint of already reducing the backlog through record number of completions. So in the last fiscal year, which ended on September 30th, VA completed a record-breaking 1.7 million claims. And so far in fiscal year 23, we're deciding claims at a greater, faster rate than even the prior fiscal year. So the speed and efficiency and accuracy in which we're providing decisions is one of the enabling factors that's going to allow us to be in a position of strength, so to speak, to start processing these PACT Act claims on January 1st. The other part of it is hiring. And Congress has given us the funding to be able to hire claims processors. So nationwide, we've already hired about 2,000 claims processors, and there's additional funding to hire 1,900 additional claims on top of that claims processors. So this was all part of the PACT Act funding that VA got. So VBA has been working very closely with all of our partners, HR partners, to make sure that is actually a big national hiring effort. So all of the regional offices across VBA are hiring and bringing in claims processing personnel. Of course, we hire. The next part is training and making sure we have an infrastructure in place to train those personnel that we're bringing in on board. You know, we don't. When you hire someone, they don't get trained overnight. There's a process in place, and we've ensured that that process is rigid and structured, so that when a claims processor comes on board, we can get them trained quickly, so that they're able to start processing claims. But another thing to point out that's of critical nature is the fact that we want to look at making sure we have an efficient system where we can not only hire additional claims personnel, but be able to make decisions more quickly, more efficiently, and more accurately. And one area in which we've made significant advances is in the world of automation. So that's some really groundbreaking work that's being done in automation. And what it is essentially taking our digital electronic system and taking these automation efforts that we're piloting in 8 different sites to be able to make decisions in days that used to take months. And there are over 40 different PACT Act diagnostic codes that have already been part of this automation effort. So what automation does is it is a automated decision tool, support tool, that allows the decision maker to more quickly make a decision. So we still have a trained VA decision maker who is making a decision, but the automation, what it does is it orders the exam, it gathers relevant evidence, and provides information to the decision maker so that the decision maker can accurately and efficiently make a decision. So this week, the Acting Undersecretary for Benefits testified before the House Veterans Affairs Committee on this very thing, which is really the 3-pronged approach for VBA to be able to make sure that we are processing PACT Act claims quickly, accurately, and efficiently. And those 3 prongs are the hiring that I talked about, the automation, and also the policies and procedures. We call it the sub-regulatory package. Typically, it takes months to years to publish things in the Federal Register, and in advance of that, because we're moving so quickly from the date this bill, PACT Act, was signed into law to when we're starting processing claims on January 1st, that we needed to have what's called a sub-regulatory package in advance of the regulations that will be published through the Federal Register. And that sub-regulatory package informs the claims processes and the policies and procedures. As we're talking right now, nationwide claims processors are being trained on all of the specific nuances of the PACT Act, on everything that I just went over, from herbicide exposure to all of these illnesses, from exposure to burn pits. So our claims processors are getting all of that training, and that will, again, make sure that we are able to withstand that influx of claims that we know are going to come to us through the PACT Act. So I wanted to, John, I wanted to invite you, if there's anything that you wanted to share with the group. I can relay this for the people who are online on Facebook.
Yeah, just the same thing. I mean, I think, the 40 diagnostic codes are being added to automation and have already been implemented. And I think that there will be more diagnostic codes to kind of develop this into the automation portion of it. So that would be something.
Yeah, so for everyone's awareness out there, what John was just saying is the automation efforts are not just stopping with where we are now. We're going to continue to bring in even more diagnostic codes so that automation can be a central part of how we are processing claims. And while we're, during this period of time, from now until January 1st when we start processing these claims, we've also been scanning electronic OPFs into our system so that we can, military files, so that we can make sure that the system can grab that information for the claims process so that we don't have to go and look for it. And that's been a really important part of the automation effort as well. One thing I did want to share with you, this is a more recent update, is we're also acutely aware of terminally ill. And what we're doing right now, even in advance of the January 1st start date, we've pulled in some terminally ill cases and we're processing those right away. We don't want to delay any further, because we have enough of the guidance, the policies and procedures out there. And Seattle happens to be one of the offices that is processing some of these terminally ill cases. So part of that is prioritizing cancer cases. So in recognition with the secretary's or the president's efforts to eradicate cancer, we are prioritizing those cancer cases and those will be flagged in our system and prioritized appropriately. So terminally ill, cancer, but really all the PACT Act cases. Our commitment to veterans is making a timely decision. And any claim that is in our system for more than 125 days is considered a backlog. So we want to make sure that we're making the decision timely. But we, again, going back to the parallel that I used in 2011 to 2013, when the VA backlog increased to over 600,000, that was because veterans were filing, Vietnam veterans were filing Agent Orange claims for ischemic heart disease and other conditions in record numbers. And but back then, and I kind of want to take you a little bit back in the time machine. Back then, VA was not exactly where we are now. We were still in a paper-based system, and we had paper files all over the place. You go to a VA regional office, you will not see a paper file. There's no such thing as paper files anymore. They've all been scanned, and they're in this electronic digital system. And the reason we're able to do automation is because all those paper files that used to be sitting in VA regional offices where the floors were sagging under the weight of these paper files, these massive file banks. But that's all gone. But that's now a digital electronic record. So what we can do in terms of automation is we can use intelligent character recognition, OCR, to be able to look at keyword searches and be able to make sure that the right decision is made accurately. And again, we've tested that in these 8 pilot offices with these diagnostic tools for automation, and the results are tremendous. So being able to deliver decisions for veterans in days is where we are now versus where we were back then when the claims backlog went up to over 600,000 in the days of paper files. I remember the VA I hired into almost 30 years ago. I don't think it changed much since World War II. It was pretty much the same VA. We had massive amounts of paper. And essentially what we did back then is, what we've done over the last 10 years is take 5 Mount Everest worth of paper and we scan that into this digital electronic record. And so VA's never been in a better place. VBA's never been in a better place to be able to take on historic legislation like this, like the PACT Act, and deliver for veterans. There's one thing I wanted to further say to sort of shine a light on our readiness now. The way the PACT Act was originally conceptualized, it was going to be implemented in a staged approach. Not all of the benefits were going to be delivered at the same time. It was actually, the conceptualization was over many years. But because of VBA's position of strength to be able to process these claims, and because, quite honestly, these veterans were exposed to burn pits and toxic exposure, we didn't want them to wait a day longer than they needed to. The Secretary made the commitment to process all of these claims effective January 1st, 2023. So I think that's a great thing that we're able to process these claims immediately and not have any veteran wait any longer than they have to. So there's 4 things I want to leave you with, because they always say at the end of speech with 3 or 4 things. Okay, so the 4 things I want to make sure that you're aware of is, one is, I already talked about our state of readiness. We are ready to be able to process these claims. The other thing is, I want to make sure that every person in this room who's talking to a veteran, if you're a veteran yourself, file the claim now. I don't want any veteran lose the ability to get back paid because they were delayed in filing the claim. Already 177,000 claims have been filed nationwide. Third thing, if you want any information from the PACT Act, the authoritative source, va.gov/PACT, or call 1-800-MyVA411, 1-800-MyVA411. And the 4th and final thing is, I don't want any veteran out there to be dissuaded from filing a claim because they're concerned that this will result in the current benefits they have being reduced. We are not re-adjudicating claims, we are prior conditions, and we want to make sure that veterans are aware that the PACT Act will not involve looking at prior conditions for that purpose. So those are the 4 things I want to make sure I left you with today. But you know, Josh Jacobs, the acting undersecretary for benefits, said this in his testimony this week, which is it's actually written into the law, into the public law, the PACT Act, which is one of the things that we will do is make sure that we have the most aggressive outreach effort possible. So whether it's talking to our media, whether it's talking at town hall meetings, whether it's talking in information sessions like today, getting the word out. And you guys know that in past times, probably it could fairly be said that VA has not done a great job in communicating information, and people have had to come to VA to get information versus VA going and giving them information. Well, I can't think of a time where VA has been more aggressive in getting out the message than we are with the PACT Act. This is one of the most integrated efforts I've ever seen in my almost 30-year career in terms of how VA is approaching both VHA and VBA working together from the healthcare side to the benefits side to get the information out on PACT Act. So we've done a lot to prepare. Excited about the road ahead. I know that as the director of the Seattle VA Regional Office, I can tell you we're doing a lot of hiring. We're growing, and we're bringing on a lot more claims processing personnel, and we're excited to be part of the effort to make sure that we're processing these claims. Like I said, some of them we're already processing on the terminally ill, but January 1st, all of the PACT Act claims will start getting processed throughout the VA system. So thanks for your time today. I did want to take any questions that you may have.
For the veterans who applied and turned down, is the VA going to automatically reopen their claim?
Yeah, good question. So the question was for veterans who have previously filed and have been turned down, will the VA automatically reopen their claim? No. So we want veterans to go ahead and file a supplemental claim if they filed a claim previously, or file a new claim. Go to, it was on the slide before, go to va.gov, you can file your claim, make sure it's, all of it can be done electronically, or you can speak to one of our benefits counselors. You can visit us. Here's the thing, folks. You don't even have to come to downtown Seattle to see us. You can go on you can go to va.gov, you can go to the Seattle Benefits Office. There's one thing that we developed during the pandemic is a visitor engagement tool. It's called VERA, V-E-R-A, and it allows you to speak to a benefits counselor without actually physically being in office. So we're available to make sure that we give anyone who's interested in filing a claim the information they need. But thank you for asking the question, because yes, we need to file that claim.
Yes, first of all, thank you for the update, because the cycle times have been reduced. But I think working with a lot of the service officers, I think the rate limiting step in this, and I wanted to address it and ask you, is the evaluation clinics. And you job those out. Is that infrastructure also plussed up to handle the capacity increase?
Okay, so the question for everyone online was the evaluation clinics. Has that been plussed up? Excellent question, because we know we can't make a decision without the exam being done. So VA has massively increased the VA contract exam supply chain, so that does not become an issue with our that does not become a constraint. We learned that during the pandemic, when veterans couldn't go to exams because of pandemic restrictions. What happened? The backlogs increased, and it increased to that 264,000 number that I told you about. So we're all over that, sir. And I can tell you that we have one organization in VBA called the Medical Contract Exam Program Office that is singularly responsible for managing all of the contracts nationwide. And that is something that we've made sure we put a lot of focus on, is to have, whether it's QTC or any of the other exam vendors, making sure that they are staffed appropriately to handle the influx of claims. The other thing is making sure that the customer experience is one that we hope it would be when they show up for a contract exam. And I was just having a conversation with David yesterday about this, and we want to make sure that where there are any issues with contract exams, please come and let me know. And I'll make sure I've had conversations with Alfie about that in the past too, because we fired some contract examiners for not providing the service that we expect. So where there are issues, let me know, and I'll make sure we follow up on that. Alfie?
I think Jerry was
Yeah. Some of the cancers you mentioned, I think I know they're relative to Agent Orange. One was bladder cancer, prostate cancer, and breast cancer, because we had women serving in combat areas that suffered from that, and it did get claimed for. So it was thought they should have been mentioned.
Okay. Yeah. Well, those are the specific cancers under the PACT Act, so I can't speak to other cancers that weren't included. But, those, the presumptive service connection laws under Agent Orange or any other cancer are still in effect, regardless of the PACT Act. These are just additional cancers that were included, so it doesn't in any way eviscerate the other cancers for which presumptive service connection is already acknowledged.
So when you say, and I know there's a lot of expertise in this room, but maybe not our viewers, when you say back award or back pay,
yes,
are you talking back to when the act was signed, or to where somebody had a diagnosis of that particular condition?
It's back to August 10th, 2022. That's the back pay. And if you don't file a claim by August 10th, 2023, that back pay will be jeopardized. So that's why we want to make sure that you file claims now. Yes, sir.
Veterans being veterans, they submit the information that you digitize in your system. What mechanism does the VA have in your system that tells the veteran, we need more information? Is there a tweak in your system that is automatically go back to the veteran and says, hey, we want to do you, but you need more information that we can insert? Do you have that ability?
It does take, the automation tools that we're putting in place, as I have mentioned before, it's the system, and again, we piloted it in different locations, is smart enough to know when it triggers us, when the evidence is submitted triggers ordering an exam. Here's the beauty of the PACT Act. That threshold is very low. So, absent the PACT Act, a lot of these conditions, you'd have to show a nexus. And the presumption of service connection dramatically lowers that threshold. So, by extension, you're going to just, to his question, you're going to get a lot of exams being ordered because we don't need that threshold covered.
Just general, your discharge, general, the honorable.
You served in the area, yeah, you're qualified, you served in the area, and you're filing the claim.
But it depends on the type of discharge too the veteran gets.
Yes, yeah, that's part of.
Like dishonorable isn't eligible. What about other than honorable?
Well, then, in those cases, we have to make an administrative decision, determination. But there's a whole other conversation around veterans who were discharged under conditions where they didn't receive VA benefits, and taking another look at those veterans' system, because those are some of our most vulnerable veterans who are in situations where there's homelessness, and they may have been discharged under conditions.
They don't think they're eligible though.
Well, I think that's part of what I was saying. There's an effort, a larger effort to look at veterans who were discharged back then under dishonorable conditions, but circumstances may be different now to be able to look at giving them benefits.
So just out of curiosity then, are you saying that you're encouraging vets at this point, if they do have maybe an other than honorable, to apply?
Yes.
Because in the past, it's been basically don't apply, you're not going to be eligible.
I would say
So
we
is there an effort?
need to take another look at those veterans. Because you could have been discharged under conditions for a variety of reasons that are different now than they were 10 years ago.
What about your veterans that are getting out now, your chapter cases, things like that? Do you encourage them to apply and go through it, or do they need to try to get upgraded before they apply? And the VSO, so it was a I'm asking this.
Well, I would not say that making efforts to get your discharge upgraded is how you want to choose, but I'm also reluctant to just generally say don't apply. I think we want veterans to apply. Let us look at the circumstances under which a veteran received a discharge and figure that out. Because here's at the end of the day, I don't want to see any veteran who could potentially receive benefits not apply.
I have one more question for you, and then I'll get you back. What is the BVA looking at in terms of precedents for COVID?
Precedents?
For COVID cases? So there's really no precedent for anything at this time. Is the VA looking at making a COVID decision? Like right now, if they had COVID, they can't apply for anything because it's considered not service connected. But you have the soldier that went to NTC on a bus full of people and got COVID. That's service connected, in my opinion. So what is the VA doing to look at that?
Well, I think on anything, the principles of service connection are the principles of service connection. So if you have a condition which you incurred in service and there's a manifestation of that condition after service, then I would say under 38 CFR 3.303, the principles of service connection would warrant granting service connection for that condition. Sorry for the regulatory.
No, you're fine.
Yeah, you got it.
I served as a service officer for several years, and I had several, more than one, several adult boards, veterans that came in with symptoms of fibromyalgia. They were eventually service connected for them. Is that going to be considered one of the presumptives? Under however, I don't know, I consider it sporting conditions.
Yeah, and those were the conditions I just went over. So it's similar to the other question that was asked. I would say that even if it's not listed as a presumptive condition, filing a claim, yeah, we can take a look at it and see.
Way to work for you.
One more question. Yes, sir.
Just a compound on the gentleman's question about the list of cancers. Just to reflect back on Bardo's comments on those diagnostic codes. On the future, is extended list of those cancers going to be reflected in the diagnostic codes?
Yeah, so there's about 40 diagnostic codes so far that are part of the PACT Act, and the intent of automation is to eventually have all the PACT Act diagnostic codes included in the automation effort. All right, well, great questions. Oh, one more.
Sorry, I don't have a question. I just had a statement. So I filed my first claim for the VA in 2013. I waited like 5 years for that to be approved. It was really painful. I filed for my PACT Act in September, I got referred to my compensation and benefits appointment less than a month later. The application was the most smooth I've ever applied for anything at the VA, and I just want to say thank you. I've seen like a night and day shift with just applying, getting my appointments, and it's just been pretty seamless over the last year. So I just want to say thanks, and I want to encourage anybody here to please apply because it is just night and day difference.
And I wanted to piggyback off your comment there and say one more thing. Even if you file a claim and your claim is denied, the whole notion that it's going to take years and years for my claim to be reviewed because I disagree with it is not exactly true under the current way in which you can have your decision reviewed. So if you file a claim and it gets denied, regardless of whether it's packed up or not, you have the ability to request a higher level review. And the higher level reviews are done, because we do them in our office, within 125 days. Actually, the average processing time for a higher level review is a couple months. So it's a great option to look at if you file a claim and it does get denied and you think the decision maker didn't apply the law correctly. Then you would file a higher level. If you want additional evidence, then you would file a supplemental. So the higher level review is done on a 0996. The supplemental is done on a 0995. So this notion that you have to wait years if you disagree with a decision because that's how long it takes BVA to make a decision is not true if you're filing a higher level review request. So I just wanted to make sure I added to that because that was actually a good segue into that.
Speaking of denial, okay, so many veterans are afraid to submit an additional claim when they've already got the service connection for it. And based upon the new issues that have been added under the Tax Act, how is it going to affect these veterans who are afraid that all of their previous claims are going to be reviewed and they're going to be reduced? Because now a lot of veterans are coming in that were 100%, that's being reduced to 60% because of a review of their entire.
Well, let me just say one thing. First of all, I said four things, but that was one of the four things. We will not be re-adjudicating decisions because you filed a claim under the PACT Act. Furthermore, if there is going to be any reduction of any condition, it can't be based on one solitary piece of evidence. It has to be what's called sustained improvement for there to be a reduction under the regulations. So I would strongly advocate that if you feel like you're entitled under the PACT Act for benefits, that you file a claim, and don't be concerned that VA is going to use that as a way of re-adjudicating your private
claims. The town hall that Chris mentioned earlier, so 12, 15 will be at VHA. We're also going to have benefit counselors, so we're doing claims clinics on the 15th, 16th, and the 19th at all of the clinics in VHA. So Silverdale, Everett, Seattle, main campus in Seattle, Olympia. I'm not sure if we're going to plug. There's another one out there too, American Lake. So we'll have benefit counselors there from 9 to 3 on those 3 days. So using that town hall to kick off. But just wanted to give you a quick plug. Send veterans there. They can file claims with our benefit counselors. And we'll be there all day. So 15th, 16th, and then that all month.
Can you repeat that?
Yes, so I wanted to make sure everyone's aware who's out there on Facebook Live that we have a town hall meeting December 15th at the VA Medical Center in Seattle, and we're going to have a claims clinic. So if you want help getting a claim filed, you can go to that town hall. It starts at 12 o'clock, goes to 4 o'clock. We'll have trained claims processors there to help you file your claim. But we're also going to be have stationed personnel at community-based outpatient clinics throughout the Puget Sound region from Olympia to Silverdale to Everett. Encourage you to come out and file help if you want help with your filing your claim. The 15th, what was the date? 15th, 16th, and 19th. 15th, 16th, and 19th. Thank you.
Okay, a little behind schedule, but we're going to continue to march forward here. We're going to move straight into the Tahoma National Cemetery. But before we do that, I just wanted to recognize all the service officers are in here. Can you please stand up if you can and be recognized for all the hard work you're doing? I know you're the forefront of the PAC that's going on. And we know what the good work you're doing, so thank you very mumuch. Yes, so Tom Yelks, ready to do your presentation.
All right, thank you for having me. Questions? No. So I'm the guy that everybody doesn't want to talk to because we got to face the inevitable. The one thing that is guaranteed when we are born is that at some point in our life, we're going to die. And working at the National Cemetery, I get to face that reality every day. So why am I here? I'm here to let you know that as veterans, we have a national cemetery in our state where everything that you need for your end of life is already paid for thanks to your service in the military. All right? Just like all VA benefits, you need to have been honorably, or actually, you need to have been, other than dishonorably discharged from the military to be eligible. Your spouse is eligible, whether or not they predecease you. If you have children who became solely dependent upon you to survive as minors or as young adults prior to the age of 23, if they were in college, they would also be eligible for burial at the cemetery. It's your benefit, okay? And so, in the context of your benefit, like a lot of veterans, we don't apply for a lot of the things that we might be eligible for. We don't want to hear no. But I have a national cemetery with thousands of grave sites, and less than 25% of the eligible veterans that die in the state of Washington use that benefit. Wow. Okay? You're talking $10,000 or more that veteran and their family are spending to be buried in a private cemetery. You can still get some benefits from VA, a headstone. There are some death benefits and stuff like that you can get through the benefits folks that you have to apply for, or if the veteran passes first, then your spouse has to apply for it, and does she know that those things exist? Does she care? Then you got to ask for something. There's a chance somebody's going to tell you no. So do you really want to go through all of that? Okay? So we got this great program. It's called Pre-Needs, right? You can fill out a form, you can send it to us, and we'll send you a letter letting you know that based on your documentation, you either are or why you are not eligible for burial in a national cemetery. Doesn't mean it's Tahoma up in Kent. Could be any national cemetery, okay? So you've met the eligibility requirements. Now your documentation is in our system, and upon the time of need, you can just call the scheduling office in St. Louis, give them the information, and they can pull that record up, okay? Now you don't have to go through that at the time of need. Most of what we do is at time of need. Nobody wants to talk to us before they need us. Okay? I don't blame them. Why? But if you're, you know, it's not a comfortable conversation for a lot of people. That's why I like coming to these places and giving this talk, because maybe you'll be a little more comfortable thinking about it. Pre-planning is important for anything, right? I'll be planning for months to retire. I'm just going to do it one day. I ain't telling nobody nothing. So plan for your needs in the future, right? That's why we all have savings accounts that have zero balances, and we have the ability to plan. We just have to go through and do those steps, okay? So pre-need is important. It's not necessary, but it's important, okay? If a veteran or their spouse passes, it's a very simple process to be buried in a national cemetery. You call our scheduling office, eligibility department in St. Louis. It's a 1866 number. Fax them your discharge documentation. Call them an hour or two later. Talk to them. They'll let you know if you're eligible, and they can even schedule you on that phone call for a burial in a national cemetery, whether it's Tahoma or you want to go to Minnesota or wherever. Okay? A veteran can be buried in any open national cemetery. A veteran can be buried in any open state VA cemetery. Medical aid. Right? It's a little different process. You're not going to call us, you're going to call them, but you're still going to get eligibility through us, or they do for you. All right? So if you've done your pre-need, that eligibility is already determined. Now, if you got the letter saying yes, you're eligible, the only way you can mess this up, yeah, go commit a capital crime. Okay? Then you don't have to worry about it, you're no longer eligible. All right, good to know, right? Just wanted to make sure I threw that up. All right. I know there's a lot of folks that are curious about the new Burial Equity Act. For VA, federal VA, that didn't change anything. Our eligibility does not cover that. For the states, it can cover that. It's the state's decision as to whether or not they're going to implement that. It's new. I don't know if Medical Lake is participating. I have heard that a lot of places still have not put that into effect. If you're not familiar with that, that is for Guard and reserves who were never on active duty, but if they served honorably, may be eligible for burial in a state or tribal VA grant cemetery. Okay? So, let me ask real quick, is anybody confused or got a question about that? So if you know your neighbor was a National Guard, but he never actually served on active duty other than for training, he may be eligible for burial in a state VA cemetery. Okay, that's the key. All right. If they were called to active duty for a war or, you know, by a presidential order, then they're covered and they can be buried in a national cemetery as well. Okay. All right. Tahoma has a lot of stuff that's going on all the time. We do multiple ceremonies every year. The two big ceremonies that we do up there, Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Love it when veterans come out. We do have a lot of community support there. The local school district, high school freshman class comes out, places the individual gravesite flags for us. They come back, they pick them up, they help us keep them ready to reuse. Okay. It's your cemetery, veterans. Talk to your constituents, talk to your fellow members, let them know we're there. I don't want to see you anytime soon. I don't. I wish we, didn't have to have cemeteries, but we do. And it's the last VA benefit you ever get to use. So I don't mean to make light of it, but we got to have that conversation, right? We got to know that it's available, and it's easier for me to laugh about it than it is to cry about it. Okay, I'm a guy; I don't like to cry in public. So know we're there. We can help you, or somebody that you know that might need our help, and save your family some money. Okay, it's a benefit that you earn. Don't go pay $10,000 to be interred in the local cemetery. Use your benefit. All right. All right. I had a whole lot of stuff up there. I don't need to talk about all that, sir.
Yeah, I have children and grandchildren that are serving active duty. Are you going to buy more land for more veteran burials up there, or do you have a limit?
We have a limit. Every cemetery runs out of space someday. We're not going to run out of space soon. Okay? So the question was, he has children and grandchildren who are serving on active duty. Can they expect to be buried at Tacoma? I hope not. And the reason I say that is we expect to be at full capacity somewhere around 2050. Okay, that's only 30 years from now. I hope your grandchildren live longer than that. Me, no, I'm not going to make it. But we will, the organization, VA, will start looking for property for a new cemetery when Tahoma National Cemetery is around 10 years from closing. Where that will be depends on where we can find enough property to build a cemetery and meet the needs of the veterans, right? So it's based on veteran population, right? We need to have 100,000 veterans or more within 75 miles of wherever we build it, okay? When we built Tahoma, there was almost 500,000 veterans in the Puget Sound region. Now we have 500,000 veterans in the whole state, okay? So where will it be? My guess is it'll stay in the Puget Sound somewhere, whether it's Pierce County, King County, Kitsap County, maybe Snohomish County. Yes, ma'am?
We have a question on Facebook.
Okay.
Can you address sometimes families' expectations that the VA is going to cover all death-related expenses and families that haven't made any plans as a result of that assumption?
Okay. That's why I talk about pre-need. Yes, so we cover everything at the cemetery. We don't cover everything at the funeral home. Okay? So every veteran has to, veteran's family, has to work through a funeral home. Okay? They have to decide, am I going to be interred via cremation or via casket? How do I want that to look? You have to buy the casket, you have to buy the urn, you have to pay for everything that the funeral home does for you, right? So we can't take that away, but the cost of a funeral, of a gravesite, the cost of a headstone, the cost of the perpetual care, the opening and closing of the grave, anything that happens inside of the cemetery is paid for. Okay? Like I said, it's a substantial amount of money. It truly is. And you get it all for free at the National Cemetery. Okay? So I throw it out there for consideration. You may have $3 million worth of life insurance and $10,000 for a burial plot, doesn't bother you. Okay, great. But your neighbor next door might not. Or your buddy at the VFW or the American Legion maybe don't. So it's good information for you to know and share. Ma'am, did I answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm curious, do you have this conversation with morticians? I'm sure there's some sort of a big organization where they all get together. So do we let them know that this is available for veterans?
So we are in communication with all the funeral homes within the state, really. They know we exist. It's not in their best interest to bring you to the National Cemetery, but they do. They understand. Most people, well, not most, I'll say some people know about the National Cemetery, so when they talk to the funeral home, they're already asking, or telling them that they want to be buried at the National Cemetery, so they can't tell them, well, no, we don't do that. They're still going to take care of them.
So I guess my next part of the question is there some way that we can have that conversation with this organization, whatever it's called, to ask them that in the process of, I'm sure they ask, is this person a veteran? That they also, if the deceased is a female, they ask that question. Because I've seen so many cases where police are called, there's an opportunity for a veteran, and it's a female, so they don't ask that additional question. So I'm hoping that somehow we could educate the morticians that when they ask, is the deceased a veteran, that they include females.
Well, okay, I will try to make sure that we are, so we do what we call funeral home orientation training. So when we talk to the funeral homes that we work with a lot, we cover this slide deck that I didn't put y'all through. I'll make sure that we edit that and make sure that we're letting them know that, hey, you can't make assumptions that because you're going to be taking care of a woman, that it's not a veteran. Okay? Yes,
All right. Oh, one more online question. I'm sorry, Paul. Transportation from the funeral home to the cemetery, whose responsibility is that?
That's the family's responsibility. Generally, the funeral home will tell them that they're going to do that for them. There is an associated cost. Or in the case of a cremation, the family can transport themselves.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, we've come to that point where what I told you earlier, what the whole purpose of this meeting here today is to hear from all of you. So this would be the time to start speaking up. And if you have any issues, pretend that the governor is sitting right here, or your legislators, and you want to let them know, hey, there's an issue here, there's an issue there. This is the time to talk about it. Is there anything glaring out there that someone wants to speak about that you want to tell the governor or our legislators?
Karen?
Right in the back over there.
For a lot of the veteran service officers that are out on the east side of the mountains, medical examinations are really, really difficult and have a really hard time getting access to any of the VA's
Sir, can you come a little bit closer? I have RPG ear and I cannot hear you.
Actually, just have him come all the way up.
There we go.
Yeah.
Come on.
Come all the way up so you can. Yeah, thank you.
There we go.
Thanks.
Continue talking to the governor.
That's right.
Hi. I was just going to mention that on the east side of Washington in particular, there's been a really difficult struggle for veterans to be seen for their C&P exams when they have a claim that's in. The contractors that the VA is working with right now don't have a really great presence out there, and they're really struggling to stretch and reach those veterans at the moment. So any additional assistance that can be provided on that level, we have a lot of VSOs that are pretty continuously and pretty regularly talking about how much of a difficulty that is, particularly for older veterans that have mobility issues and really can't go very far, can't go to very different clinics, and then oftentimes in the winter in particular it gets worse. So I know that there's been a consistent problem with that, and any additional assistance can make a major difference to that.
Okay, thank you. Jerry, you got something? Come on up, Jerry.
I guess good morning or good afternoon. I'm Jerry Fugich from the Veterans Legislative Coalition. And one of the things that we're looking at is that the global war on terror, there are a lot of our comrades who gave their last full measure. We need to have a monument for them. And there was an option to be able to make donations through the state treasurer for that money, but we still need the legislator to approve that. That's not going to happen overnight. They're also going to need money and names, because if the legislature looks at it and you have 500,000 veterans and they all donated $1 to this program, that's $500,000. Congress then will pay attention to that. So Paul and Tom are on the committee for that. It is a bipartisan committee of people who are wanting this to happen. One of the things I ask you when you deal with the legislature, how many of you were Vietnam veterans? How many of you liked the way you were treated when you came back? Not many of you. That's how our legislators are treated. So if you call them and talk with respect, like you would like to be talked to also. We're right now probably the only group that treats our legislatures right and we get things passed. Suicide prevention bill was passed unanimous. There was not a single nay vote in either chamber of the House or Senate. So when you do talk to them like you would like to be talked to. But we do need to recognize our comrades who gave their last full measure, to have a monument made for the global war on terror. Thank you.
I'm also Dennis Primley from the VLC, and I want to make a comment. The last 2 years, it's been all virtual. We've done the last. Oh, I talked loud enough for it.
It's for the people.
Anyway, the last few years, it's been virtual, and we've testified virtually, but we've lost the contacts, the one-to-one we had with the legislatures and their legislative assistants. We are trying to reconnect this year because they're going to have committee meetings as well as virtual, and we will be testifying before these committees. The issue is that when we talk to a legislator, one of their first questions is, who do you represent? Well, for a veteran, that's very easy. We represent the veterans of the state of Washington and the service organizations that got about 180,000 membership from last I heard. There may be more, maybe less. That gets their attention. right away. And we're very brief in what we do. We don't tell any war stories or anything like that because that just turns them on. Here's what I'm asking you is the VSO leadership. You have representatives in the VLC, but the connection from your rep in the VLC to your organization, to your leadership, sometimes has broken down. You don't know what the heck is going on a week-to-week basis, which we do there, testify from January to April. And it's behooving the leadership to at least ask the question, what is your top priority, VLC? What areas are you now going to testify for? Because it makes a difference. And that is what we're trying to rebuild now in the VLC. We're going to walk the halls just like WDVA is going to be walking the halls to make sure that their voices also heard. So we are your representatives. And just to keep in contact with your contact in the VLC because you are all invited to the leadership. You're invited to the reception, the legislative reception on the 13th of January in the Columbia Room. And we want the VSO leadership to come at around 10:30 so they can mingle a little bit. And then the reception starts from 11 to 1, but people come early. And when they come through that door, whether they're in LA or legislature, we meet and greet and show them around, and we even tell them where the food is, you know, because they kind of wander around. So what I'm saying is, I guess what I'm saying is we really, this year, need your participation because we are building relationships, and we've got a lot of new people down there. Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else?
Yes.
All right.
Hi, my name is Erin Cooper. I'm a social worker at the VA, Federal Department of, and I just want to share a little bit of a solution and not necessarily problems. And so I am an Army vet. I'm a veteran first. I decided to work for the VA because I want to be a part of the change. Got a lot of veterans out there also want to see. And so we are partnering with your organization. We're partnering with individuals. We're partnering with everybody and anybody that wants to be a part of the solution on connecting veterans with resources, connecting veterans with each other with camaraderie, letting them know they are not alone in their communities. Here in Washington State, under the governor's challenge to reduce veteran and family member suicide, we are working with the ETS sponsorship program to help transitioning service members that are coming into our local community to connect them with all of you. And we're doing that with warm handoffs. It's not just phone numbers. It's not just like, hey, Google this. We are taking those service members, those families, and we're connecting them with all your organizations. I've talked with American Legion, VFW, WDVA is a strong partner of ours. 9 Line and Fife is one of our community partners as well. Lacey Veteran Services Hub, who does amazing things crossing different systems to help support veterans. We're all working together. And so if you want to be a part of this great network, feel free to email me. My email address is Erin, ERIN, .Cooper, COOPER, the number 1 at va.gov. I look forward to working with everyone. Thank you.
And just so you know, if you didn't get her number, she's probably going to, if you're leadership in any type of veteran service organization, she's probably going to find your number and call you and leave messages until you call her back. She's very proactive. You got something?
Yep, we have another online question around ETS sponsorship, and does the governor plan to incorporate funding for this system in the upcoming legislative cycle? And I believe Alfie is going to respond.
So the question from Facebook Live was ETS sponsorship, that Erin just spoke about, if it is in the governor's budget. And the answer is no, but we do have a budget for ETS because of the Sergeant Fox grant, which starts at about $40,000 a year, and we'll be able to see how that works. And from there, if we need to have sustainability when it comes to ETS, then we'll be able to ask for that money in out years. But at this point in time, it is funded for us to be able to work on the ETA sponsorship. And they need sponsors, don't they? Yes. And any veteran can actually volunteer to be able to, it's like the sponsorship when we were in the military. You go to a new base, you have somebody who runs you through all of the different things for your benefit and for you to be able to have a comfortable landing in the new place. Same thing, but it's just from active duty into our community.
Thank you. All right, is there anybody else? Is there anybody else? Last call. Going once? Going twice? All right, that's it for that. So we're coming to the end here, but before we take off, I just want to thank Alfie. This is going to be your last commander's call. She's been to many of these. You know, on a personal note also, you've been a mentor to me. You always had this openness about you where I felt very comfortable around you. And you've helped me step forward on my left foot and keep me straight. So there's a lot of new faces in here. Who here this is their first commander's call? So there's new faces in here, okay? So the word is getting around. You've set the tone these last few years for veterans to step up in leadership positions to help all the 555,000 veterans that live in Washington State. Thank you, Alfie. We're going to bring her up, and she's going to summarize and talk to us all. Thank you very much. Alfie Alvarado.
Wow. No applause, just money. So we have several calls to action. You know, this meeting is not just to be able to be fed information, it's also for us to walk out of here to be able to make a commitment and follow up on the things that we were exposed to. First of all, promote suicide prevention by requesting some of the workshops we offer in your posts and chapters or in your community. If you live in a retirement community over 55 and want to be able to get this to be able to support that community where we have many veterans or veteran survivors, it is important you contact our agency to get these workshops. They're not long, but they give tools to be able to identify the signs of somebody who is in crisis to be able to prevent suicide. And we need all of us working on that. The second one is find veterans who are economically challenged or disadvantaged to get connected to the digital world, especially our rural veterans and our veterans over the age of 65. Most of who are living on fixed incomes and can't afford to pay for internet, to get computers and all of that, or to be able to update a computer that is back from the dark ages. You know, we need to make sure that if they don't have a computer or one that is not functioning, that they can get something that is modernized to ensure that they can continue to communicate and connect to the rest of the world. It's really important. So find them so that we can serve them. Also promote the tax credit for working families to put a little extra money in their pocket. We have a lot of veterans right now who are working and barely making ends meet. They're on their second, sometimes their third marriage, and they have little kids. And that all of those services, the internet services, but then that tax credit, $1,200 is a lot of money for people who are living on the margin. And don't assume that eligible veterans know that they're reconnecting to all of these conditions, that are under the PACT Act. We need to continue promoting, sending the flyers, having them in our outreach sessions and all of that to ensure that they can connect to their benefits. And the best person to be able to run them through is going to be a service officer. Don't let them do it alone. Because sometimes veterans don't know exactly what is it that they're applying for. The expertise of a service officer is gold when it comes to them. And lastly, the PACT Act. Who knows what PACT means?
Promise.
Okay. is the promise to address comprehensive top 6. That's what PACT means. Promise to address comprehensive top 6. You know, the one thing is survivors. There are widows and widowers out there, and opening a claim could actually put money in their pocket depending on what kind of disability they have. Do not forget about the survivors. It's not just the veterans. If the veteran passed away 10 years ago, but they died of some of those conditions and all that, they could open a claim to be able to, you know, see if they were eligible. So it's important to be able to ensure that our survivors actually continue getting connected. So that's something that we don't think about sometimes. And they may be eligible for a spouse, you know, widow's pension. You know, a few $100 in their pocket could keep them living in their home and paying their taxes or getting food. And that's basically all I have to be able to summarize the session today. So this is our call to action to make sure that we can do that. We will have the slides available, and I don't know how we're going to be able to do that.
On our website.
In our website. The slides for everything, to include Tom's, you know, that are pretty comprehensive on the cemetery, are going to be on our website, and we will send through the connection that we have with you on email. We'll send you an email just to make sure that you know what that particular website is, so that you can connect and get the slides, so that you can just pass them on and pass them on. So we need you to promote all of our information to ensure that it gets, you know, as far as wide and deep as we can, to ensure that our veterans community continues connected. Again, thank you for coming in today, and have a great rest of your day.
All right, that's it. Tom, we're going to have a little thing afterwards, right? Yes, we are. All right, if you're on the VAC, we're going to have a little powwow here. So everybody else, have a good day.